Saw this on social media about boiling coconut, the coconut shell with salt, and I think with clove and a few other things. And you're supposed to use it to gargle in your mouth, and it's supposed to cure your tooth pain. It's supposed to cure the hole in your tooth and whatnot. I've seen it in a couple of places, and I have to make a video about it. That's not true. That's not true. When you begin to have cavity or you begin to have decay, it can potentially remineralize. Okay, in a certain environment, and if provided with the tools it needs to heal itself. But once that tooth breaks in and causes a hole in your tooth, there's no amount of gargling, there's no amount of swishing that can cure that. At that point, that hole needs to be filled. That hole needs to be treated, because there are bacteria that are eating away. Bacteria, sugar, acid, and all those things combine to eat away on the tooth. So it needs to be cleaned out. It's just like when you have a wound in your body. You can't just go and the wound will heal. You can't just pour something and the wound will heal. The wound needs to be dressed. The wound needs to be corrected. If there's a part of the body that is already dead, it needs to be removed and get to a fresh environment where your body can be able to grow the healing cells that will fill that hole. Okay? When it's in your body. But in the case of the tooth, unfortunately, the tooth doesn't grow to heal or to fill the hole. In other words, for it not to continue to deepen. But you must heal it with an artificial material that is still very much okay to be in your body. That means it's not going to cause any inflammation or any rejection. I checked the comment section in some of these posts, and I'm actually impressed, because there are people that would say, please go see your dentist, don't listen to this. So there are people who are thinking correctly, but I know so many people are moved by emotion, something they can do by themselves. A lot of people don't trust the doctors. Somebody actually commented that their friend went to the doctor to get their tooth pulled and died. Okay, and I want to tell you, make sure you're going to a real doctor, a trained doctor that have their medical degree from a certified school. Because if you go to quacks, there are more quacks than real. There are so many quack doctors, and you people go to them and they never get to know their quack doctors, and they build distrust for doctors. Okay, I heard that there's I wouldn't name the town. There was a man that was doing operation in their living room that will literally cut you open and do operation. And sometimes people may survive if they're lucky, and if they're not lucky, they don't survive. In as much as no matter what setting, every operation carries risks. But when you observe all proper protocol to avoid infection, most people will survive. People don't die from operations that easily anymore because of how advanced science have gotten. So some of these dies is due to ignorance, due to carelessness, and things like that. And carelessness is not just in the operating table, it's also in knowing the person you're operating in. Because some people may not be a candidate for certain operations. For example, if they have heart disease, if they have other disease processes going on that should be treated before the operation. And if you don't bother to find out these things, you just go and operate on somebody that there's no way they will survive anyway, not because of what happened in the operation, but because of lack of knowledge or things you need to check. I will tell you, for example, there was a patient that I had just this past week. They had a toothache. I wanted to pull the tooth because, yes, that tooth needed to be pulled. It was too late. But all I did was ask a few questions, and I found that they were on blood thinner. And at that point, I had to stop everything I'm doing till we're able to get them off of the blood thinner for a few days before the operation. But if I had just gone to operate, that patient could have bled to die. That is how doctors can make mistakes. Sometimes it's not in the process, it's in lack of history. I don't know if I'm making sense. So please, that is why I do what I do. I need you to know the things to check so you can advocate for yourself, so you don't depend solely on your doctor. Thank you for watching. Until next time, may God bless you. Bye-bye.